Hi there. My name is Dominic Moore-Dunson, dancer, choreographer, and director from Akron, Ohio, and the creator of the Remember Balloons stage show. Thanks for being here to learn about my new work in the amazing book that I got inspiration from. Today, I'm going to read the Remember Balloons, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the origins of this project, what it's going to look like on stage, and ultimately some more touring information for you. Thanks for being here. The Remember Balloons. Written by Jesse Oliveros, illustrated by Dana Wolfcott. I have lots and lots of balloons, way more than my little brother. This is my favorite, I tell him, pointing to the balloon filled with my last birthday party. When I look at it, I can see the pony again. I can still taste the chocolate frosting. Mom and Dad have more balloons than I do. Grandpa has lived so long, he has more balloons than all of us together. And the stories he has inside of those balloons, they're better than ponies and chocolate frosting. What's in your yellow balloon? I ask him. Grandpa's eyes light up. We just come back from picking blackberries along the muddy banks of the creek. Our berry-splattered faces gave Aunt Nell's cows such a fright. She didn't make milk for days. What about that blue one, Grandpa? That's the time I lost my favorite dog, Jack, Grandpa chuckles. I found him chasing butterflies next to the schoolhouse. Only Jack could get me to school on a Saturday. And that one? I point to a purple balloon above his head. Grandpa looks up and smiles, his face alive with remembering. That's the day I married your grandma in the little church on Cedar Lane. We danced that night under the stars, and oh, how I loved her. I don't ask him about the silver balloon, because I have one too. That was the day we stood on the dock till the sun went down, feeling tug after tug on our lines. Grandpa and I must have caught 1,000 fish. Grandpa ruffles my hair like he always does. That's one of my favorite balloons. Mine too, I say. But Grandpa has been having problems with his balloons lately. One will get caught in a tree and he'll tell me the same story over and over. Let me tell you about the Christmas I went to Aunt Nell's farm, Grandpa says, even though he just finished telling me about it. Other times, a balloon will float right out of his hand, and he won't even know it. It's okay, Grandpa, I yell as I run after it. Every time I almost reach it, but it always slips away. Something's wrong with Grandpa, I tell my parents. He can't hold on to his balloons anymore. Mom looks at me with sad eyes. That happens sometimes when people grow older. Grandpa's balloons start floating away faster and faster. Running down streets and up hills, I watch the balloons grow smaller. He finally loses the silver one. I watch it float away until I can't see it anymore. Why did you let it go? I yell. That was our balloon. Then I sit on the sidewalk and cry. I feel Grandpa pat my back, but he doesn't ruffle my hair like he always did. Why are you crying, child? There's nothing to cry about. One day, I go to see him, and all his balloons are gone. Grandpa? I say, but he doesn't look at me. It'll be okay, Dad says. Look up. I have new balloons now. A yellow one filled with blackberries and a cow. A blue one filled with Grandpa and his favorite dog. A purple one filled with a wedding day. See, Mom says, now they're yours to share. So I climb into Grandpa's lap and begin telling him about my new balloons. The end. So this project started in my local library. I was there with my wife and my two little ones, and the kids were playing in this children's section with the toys, and admittingly, I got really bored. So I started flipping through a bunch of the books on the shelves, and I came across this book called The Remember Balloons. So I opened it up, I started reading, and there I was, this grown man in the middle of this children's section of the library, bawling my eyes out. And so I took the book, I handed it to my wife, and I said, you have to read this right now. So I watched her read it, and the exact same thing happened. And what struck me was the conversation me and my wife ended up having for the rest of the day about Alzheimer's. And that's really important because my wife comes from a long family line of people who've suffered from this disease. And I was hearing for the first time what it was like being the granddaughter of somebody who had Alzheimer's and what it felt like to be forgotten. And for context, me and my wife met at 15 and 16 years old, and we're high school sweethearts, and we'd never had this conversation before. And we also had to talk about how we're going to teach our kids about this if this happens to her parents. So after that conversation, that was it for me. I reached out to the author, I congratulated her about the book, and I simply asked, would you ever consider letting me turn this into a stage show? And here we are, 3 months later, and I have the exclusive North American rights to create this show and bring it to the stage. So, okay, now let's talk about the actual show. It's a 45-minute dance theater piece that has choreography, spoken text, and an original jazz score by Theron Brown. We're gonna have minimal set design, and the costumes will be inspired by the book. The show is for K through 4 and their families. So, you know and you saw in the book that these memories exist inside of balloons. So I want you to imagine, the little boy asks Grandpa about his purple one, and he starts remembering the first dance he had at his wedding with his wife. In the show, Grandpa is going to enter that memory physically, and the lights on stage will fill the stage in purple. And Grandpa is going to do this beautifully choreographed duet that represents the first dance that he did with his wife that he remembers. And then when he's done, he's going to exit that memory, and the lights on stage will go back to what they were normally. When Grandpa loses the balloons, we're not going to use music to highlight the balloons going away. We're actually going to use silence. And it's because there's this thought about memories that when they're really close to us, we feel like we can hear everything we heard, we can feel everything we touched, we can taste everything we tasted. But as they start to drift away, you can feel less, you can hear less, you can taste less. And as soon as they go away finally, it happens in silence. Memories don't leave us in a loud way. They leave us undetected. This show is going to be made with 3 performers, and we're intentionally making the work so that it can happen in large numbers in theaters, it can happen inside schools, and it can also happen in your local library. This show is going to premiere in the fall of 2024 and will be available for touring immediately in the 2024-2025 season. Look, I love this book, and I feel so honored to be able to bring this to you on stage. Because ultimately, this piece is about teaching all of us how we're supposed to cherish memories with one another, cherish experiences with one another, and share our stories across generations. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.